The city was quieter than usual that night. It wasn't late, just past 9, but the streets had thinned out, and the chill in the air made even the usual stragglers hurry home. Amber Hayes wrapped her coat tighter around her and kept her eyes forward, heels clicking against the pavement. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't take it out. She hated looking distracted while walking alone. Instead, she pushed her hands deeper into her coat and picked up her pace. She had walked this route 100 times after late shifts at the cafe, but tonight, something about the silence felt heavier. Her apartment was only 6 blocks away. 6 short blocks. She recited the number in her head like a mantra. At the 3rd block, she heard a second pair of footsteps. Amber's pulse jumped. She kept moving, not turning around. Sometimes, the mind played tricks. The sound of her own stride could echo off buildings. She tried to convince herself it was that. But the footsteps stayed steady, matching her rhythm. Amber's throat tightened. She veered toward a small convenience store at the corner. Its lights glowed like a beacon. If she went inside, maybe whoever it was would pass by. She was 3 feet from the door when a hand clamped around her arm. Amber's breath caught in her chest. She froze, every muscle tensing, as she spun her head. A man stood there, tall, wearing a dark hoodie that shadowed most of his face. His grip wasn't crushing, but firm enough to stop her. "Don't scream," he said, voice low. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it would burst through her ribs. She opened her mouth anyway, but no sound came. Then he leaned closer, and what he whispered made her entire body go cold. "They're watching you." Amber blinked. What?" she managed. He glanced past her shoulder, eyes scanning the street. "Don't turn around. Just listen." Everything inside her screamed to pull away, to run, but something about his tone, urgent, almost desperate, kept her rooted. "2 men," he continued in a hush. "They've been following you for the last 3 blocks. If you walk into that store, they'll corner you inside. You need to keep moving." Amber's chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Was this a trick? Was he one of them? She searched his face, but the shadows of his hood made it impossible to read his expression. "I don't know you," she whispered harshly. "Let go of me." He released her arm immediately, raising both hands in a gesture of peace. "Fine, I won't touch you, but if you don't believe me, check the reflection in the store window." Against her better judgment, Amber flicked her eyes toward the glass door. And there behind her figure 2 shapes lingered on the opposite side of the street. One leaned casually against a lamppost, the other pretended to tie his shoe. Both kept glancing in her direction. Her stomach dropped. The man in the hoodie spoke again, calm but insistent. "You can scream, you can run, but they'll be on you before anyone helps. If you want to make it home, you need to trust me." Amber's instincts tangled. Trust a stranger who grabbed her, or believe the evidence of her own eyes. Neither option felt safe. "Who are you?" she asked. "Someone who doesn't want to see you hurt," he replied. "Now walk. Keep your head up, act natural, and follow my lead." Amber hesitated, then forced her legs to move. The man matched her pace at her side, not touching her. They crossed the street, and she risked a glance back. The 2 men had started walking again, keeping their distance but always in view. Her skin prickled. This was real. "Why are they following me?" she whispered. "I don't know," he said. "But I've seen them before. They hang around here at night, looking for targets." Amber swallowed hard. "And you just happen to be here." The man's jaw tightened. "Let's just say I pay attention." "Not everyone does." They turned another corner. Amber's mind raced. If she led him toward her apartment, he'd know where she lived. If she ditched him, she risked being alone with the others. "You don't have to trust me forever," he said quietly, as though sensing her thoughts. "Just long enough to get somewhere safe." Amber exhaled shakily. "Safe like where?" "There's a police station 3 blocks east. We'll head that way." Her heart lifted slightly, until she realized he knew exactly where it was. Too much knowledge for someone she'd never seen before. "You could be lying," she said. He didn't argue. "I could. But those men aren't lying. They're behind us right now." Amber risked another glance. He was right. They walked faster. Every step felt like a gamble, every corner a possible trap. Her palms were damp with sweat, and she clenched them inside her pockets to keep from shaking. Finally, the glowing sign of the police station came into view at the end of the block. Relief washed over her, but before they reached it, the man in the hoodie stopped. "Don't go in yet," he muttered. Amber turned on him, fury and fear colliding. "Are you kidding me? That's the police station. They're still watching," he said firmly. "If you run inside now, they'll scatter, and the officers won't have proof of anything. They'll be free to try again tomorrow." Amber faltered. "So what do you want me to do? Just stand here." He looked at her, finally lowering his hood enough for her to see his face. His eyes were sharp, focused, not wild or threatening, more like someone carrying a burden. "I want you to help me catch them," he said. Amber's stomach twisted. She hadn't asked for this. She just wanted to go home. Yet the thought of those men waiting another night made her blood run cold. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" she whispered. A car rolled by, headlights sweeping over them. The men behind them slowed, pretending to check their phones. The stranger's voice dropped even lower. "You're the bait, and I'm the trap." Amber's pulse thundered. Her night had turned into something she couldn't have imagined minutes ago. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Amber's breath came fast, though she tried to keep her face calm. "The bait," she repeated, hardly believing the word. The man, still nameless to her, nodded once. "If we walk past the station and cut through the alley, they'll follow. That's when I'll stop them. The police will do the rest." Amber stared at him. The idea sounded insane. "You expect me to risk my life so you can play hero?" His jaw flexed, but his voice stayed even. "No, I expect you to buy yourself time. Right now, you're a target whether you like it or not. If you go in there without proof, they'll be back. But if we get them caught in the act, it ends tonight." Amber's mind spun. She wanted to run into the station, scream, demand safety, but another part of her remembered the faces in the reflection, the casual way those men stalked her. If they were this bold on a public street, what would stop them from waiting tomorrow? Or the next night? Her throat tightened. "Why are you even doing this? You don't know me." For the first time, his eyes flickered with something unguarded. "Because I've seen what happens when no one steps in. I'm not letting it happen again." There was something heavy in his tone, a past shadow she couldn't read. But the urgency in his voice was real. Amber's hands trembled inside her coat. She didn't want to be bait. She didn't want any of this. But the alternative, living with the fear of always being followed, felt worse. She gave a short nod. "Fine. Tell me what to do." Relief crossed his features, fleeting but clear. "Good. Stay steady. Don't look back. We'll pass the station like nothing's wrong. When I say, left, follow me into the alley. No hesitation." Amber swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe evenly. "And if they catch me first?" "They won't." His voice was absolute. They walked. The station loomed closer, then slid past as they moved by without breaking stride. Amber's pulse screamed in her ears. Every fiber of her body wanted to veer toward those bright glass doors, but she kept moving, trusting the stranger at her side. "Left," he murmured. She turned with him, slipping into a narrow alley lit only by a single flickering bulb. The walls felt too close, the air colder here. Trash bins lined the brick, casting warped shadows. "Keep walking," he said quietly. Amber did. Behind them, the footsteps came. Steady, confident. Her skin prickled. They were close. "Now stop," he whispered. Amber froze, halfway down the alley. The man in the hoodie stepped slightly ahead of her, squaring his shoulders. A voice behind them spoke, casual and mocking. Well, looks like she's not alone after all." Amber turned her head. The two men stood at the alley entrance, silhouettes against the streetlight. One tall and broad, the other wiry but sharp-eyed. Both had a predator's grin. "You really think you can scare us off?" The taller one sneered, stepping forward. The man beside Amber didn't flinch. "You've been following her for blocks. It ends now." The wiry one laughed. "And who are you supposed to be?" "Her bodyguard." "Something like that," he replied. The taller man cracked his knuckles. "Then you can go first." They advanced. Amber's breath hitched, panic clawing at her chest. She didn't want to see violence. She wanted this to stop, now. But the stranger moved like he'd been waiting for this moment. The first attacker lunged, swinging a fist. The hooded man ducked smoothly, countering with a sharp strike to the ribs that sent the bigger man stumbling back. The wiry one rushed next, pulling something from his pocket, a glint of metal under the weak light. A knife. Amber's heart lurched. Knife. She gasped. But her protector was faster. He kicked a trash bin into the attacker's legs, knocking him off balance. The knife clattered across the ground. In 2 strides, the man in the hoodie had the wiry attacker pinned against the wall, forearm pressing to his chest. The tall one recovered and charged again, but this time Amber moved. She grabbed the discarded knife with shaking hands and pointed it at him, voice trembling but loud. "Don't you dare." The man froze, surprise flashing across his face. That second of hesitation was enough. Her stranger swung the wiry man down hard, then pivoted, slamming the bigger one into the opposite wall. Both men groaned, defeated. "Call for help," he told Amber sharply. Her hands fumbled for her phone. She dialed 911 with trembling fingers, gasping out their location, the alley, the men. Within minutes, though it felt like hours, the flashing lights of a squad car spilled across the brick walls. Officers rushed in, taking the attackers into custody. The wiry one spat curses, the bigger one glared with venom, but they were cuffed and hauled away. Amber leaned against the wall, every muscle shaking with leftover adrenaline. The man in the hoodie finally relaxed, tugging his hood back fully. His dark hair was damp with sweat, his jaw tight but calm. He looked at her with steady eyes. "You're safe now," he said quietly. Amber's throat ached with all the words she wanted to say but couldn't find. She managed only one. "Why?" He gave a faint, tired smile. "Because someone had to be watching." Before she could ask more, an officer approached. "Notebook ready. Miss, we'll need your statement. And you too, sir." The stranger hesitated, then nodded. But when Amber turned to him after giving her account, he was already stepping back. "Wait," she called softly. He paused. "I don't even know your name." For a moment, he seemed to consider keeping it that way. Then he said, "Elias." And just like that, he blended into the crowd of uniforms, slipping away before she could ask anything else. Amber stood there, stunned, the night air biting her cheeks. Elias. A stranger who grabbed her arm, who whispered the words that froze her, who stepped between her and danger. A man who carried shadows in his eyes but chose to fight for her anyway. She didn't know if she'd ever see him again. But one thing was certain. She would never forget the night her life almost broke apart and the stranger who refused to let it.